I'm live. Will you look at that? What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Awesemo.com NBA strategy show presented by No House Advantage. I'm Dave Loughran on Twitter at Lofty_D. Follow me along with my guy right here, closing out the work week. Wonderful Friday morning. Josh Engleman at Josh Engleman on the Twitters. What's going on, fella?
Not much. Ready to put an end to this week, I guess. It's been fun. We're at the worst part of the NBA season for sure. A lot of shenanigans coming up, but every time that happens, if you're willing to put in the time and you're at the computer and you're ready to pay attention, like there's additional money to be made by people being asleep at the wheel on this final 10-day stretch of the league.
Yeah, people tend to bail around this time, but there's no better opportunity to take advantage of watching the process show, 6:30 a.m. Monday through Friday, watching the strategy show 7 days a week, the deeper dive, the tip off, live before lock, all of that stuff. Some great betting opportunities as well outside of just the DFS space, Josh. Yesterday, even a team like Golden State, my God, there's so many bad teams right now that just have no incentive and no desire to win. We've seen some really disgusting games recently, but listen, the opportunities are always going to be there for DFS and for betting, and that's why we're still here all the way up till the end of the season and into the playoffs.
I wanted to touch on this, and I know you were just getting a little bit of a different run, but following up on what I just said about paying attention on a day like today, I think it's even more important for someone like our sponsor, No House Advantage. If people are asleep at the wheel on a site where you're obviously still getting potentially a little bit of overlay in the contest, stale lines with increased news, those stale lines are even more important. So if you are paying attention today, a place like No House Advantage is the perfect place to get in. And
what Josh means by stale lines is they're static. They do not move. So it would be like on another site, another book, where if you bet, if a lot of money or a lot of bets are coming in on a certain prop, it will move in one direction. Or it might even, and this is what you often see when injuries come out, get pulled off the board entirely. Maybe they bring it back at a vastly different number than it was. But on No House Advantage, whatever you have early in the morning is exactly what you have at the end of the night when the games start. So No House Advantage, it's a good point, Josh. If you haven't checked it out yet, it is a peer-to-peer player prop betting format. So peer-to-peer player prop format in GPP style. So you take 8 props, you put your highest confidence one at the top, work it down to the one that you're least confident in, the ones that you're most confident in get the most points. You put them in a tournament style format and you win that way. They want you to make money over there. They want to be a known commodity in the DFS and the betting space. And what better way to do that than to keep people on the site? Another better way to do that, use the promo code Awesemo, get $20 when you sign up and deposit over there, and use the free tools at Awesemo. I can't stress this enough. Like, we literally do the work for you. We have a player prop tool specifically built for No House Advantage, taking their props and taking our projections and our projected props or our projected stats for those players, matching them up against the props, giving you a good idea of what you're working with. You have expected win rate, expected ROI too, as well, for the player prop tool that you can use in conjunction with all of that, and the optimal lineup tool. The best part, they're all totally free. All you have to do is go over to Awesemo.com, check them out, use them as a companion piece when you go to No House Advantage. So do that. Use the promo code Awesemo. Get your $20 when you sign up and deposit. Download the app and take advantage of these crazy late season swings and news breaks and all of that stuff as we work our way through May. All right. Well, Josh, we're happy to have everybody with us. I think you would agree.
I am very happy to have everybody. Well, almost everybody here with us.
Almost everybody. Sure. I mean, there's always the few exceptions, but we'll take them as well. We're all family here. The biggest thing, hit that thumbs up. Make this your routine, right? You wake up, maybe you take a shower, you brush your teeth. Well, you watch the strategy show or the deeper dive. Was that brushing your teeth?
Yes, that was brushing my teeth.
You hit that thumbs up button. And if you haven't done so, you subscribe. And you hit that notification bell as well. Very simple process. Make it part of your routine. 6 weeks to create a habit. Let's start today. So in 6 weeks from now, we're not even thinking about it. Just second nature. Boom. Click that thumbs up. We're in business. All right, man. We got 10 games to talk about today.
We do.
And Houston, as far as I can see, has 4 players that aren't on the injury report.
Houston's going to be bringing back Olajuwon and Drexler and Barkley and stuff tonight. I don't know. I don't know. They might play 6 guys legitimately.
They literally have 4 players. When I say this, not 4 players on the injury report. They have 4 players that aren't on the injury report.
Yeah, I don't know what to do there right now. And I don't think that I'm going to have any clarification in the next 5 hours.
I suppose if one of, Jayson Tate, Christian Wood, or Kelly Olynyk plays, then they'll be okay. But they could easily run 6 or 7 man rotation. So we'll get into all of that. They're not the only team that is going to cause some headaches today, but that's why we're here. Again, that's why you had the process show. I'm sure you had a tough time with Houston on that show today.
It took me a little bit, and ultimately I had to just be like, I don't give a shit. Like, there's nothing I could do right now. It doesn't really matter. I mean, so they signed Kyrie Thomas to a 10-day. Allegedly, he could be available today. That is important. DJ Augustine was active for the last game that they played, but did not play at all because he's kind of like a break in case of emergency type guy. So they only went with 7 anyway. It's really, really bad right now.
Yeah.
Really bad.
Trying to figure that out is an exercise in futility, but we will do our best. Before we do that, let's take a look at Fantasy Cruncher lineup study, see who took down the 100K on Thursday night. What do we have working for us, Josh? Anything surprising stand out to you when you look at these lineups that were at the top?
Well, I'll tell you this much. It's not surprising to see the Colts, Steve Buzzard, showing up in the number 3 spot.
Love it. He is a good player, man. He is a really good player.
Just a point and a quarter behind the winner, 100K richer, Hog Lawrence.
Oh, well, of course.
Hog Lawrence takes it down with Van Vliet, Karis LeVert, who had his best day of the season yesterday. I was talking to Andy Glockner in DMs yesterday before the site or before Block, and I was just like, I'm not a huge fan of LeVert today, but I get that dude wrong every single day, so I'm sure we can just get a LeVert smash. And then I woke up to the DM like, thanks for the LeVert tips. I was just like, hey, look, man, I told you he's going to go nuts. Tim Hardaway Jr., Siakam went monstrous once Kyle Lowry was ruled out. Brandon Clark, Kyrie Irving with 72 fantasy points. Absolutely bonkers performance. Sekou Doumbouya and Aaron Holiday rounding it out. Amazing to see that Kyrie Irving and Karis LeVert are the 2 lowest owned pieces of that lineup. I think that's pretty telling too, because they are guys that have legitimate ceilings, guys that will dominate the ball, play 36 minutes for their team. They basically become the primary or secondary offensive creators. And to get those guys at minimal ownership and then get value at Aaron Holiday and Sekou, Tim Hardaway to a lesser extent, Brandon Clark, I really like the idea of getting a little bit different with studs. And that's how you end up at the top.
We've talked about that all year long on this show. Year long on this show, we've talked about you don't need to go crazy getting different with value options if there's amazing dirt cheap punts as chalk. You can do it by getting a 5%. I don't know what was Irving's ownership?
3.3.
Yeah. You can do it by getting star players with 70, 80 point ceilings and getting them at virtually no ownership. And it's not talked about enough, right? Obviously Russell Westbrook, it's just at this point, fading him is you fade him at your own peril because he's just so automatic. But there's a lot of nights out there where you have these chalk high price, top tier players, and then players around them that might not be in as good of matchups, but they're the type of players that can beat any matchup and go for 80 in those spots. So yeah, it's definitely a lineup that I looked at and thought, you know what? I have no issues with this because both of these guys are, and Malcolm Brogdon was out, right? So it makes Karis LeVert that much more appealing. I like it. I think it's solid. And, the value options he went with weren't exactly low owned punts.
No, not at all. Really, the punts were LeVert and Kyrie. Brandon Clark getting to 13% ownership is kind of wild, but I guess for 3,300, it's not too crazy. But this guy has no minutes upside whatsoever. Didn't matter yesterday, though.
Certainly
that guy's got 100K.
Well, congrats, Hog Bryant or whatever his name was.
Hog Lawrence.
And congrats to the Colts, too. Reason we mentioned the Colts, it's Steve Buzzard, who is integral part of what we do here at Awesemo. So congrats to Steve again. I feel like I've said that 18 times in May and April alone. So
I think we need to have people are still talking about fading Russ and stuff. He had 63 fantasy points yesterday. That was fine.
Overtime. He played 5 minutes in overtime too. Don't forget that.
He wasn't good at all. That opens the door. And that's the big piece for GPPs. Because if you're talking about a 61% owned Russell Westbrook or a 3% owned Kyrie Irving is more likely to make you win a tournament at that ownership than Russell Westbrook is. Because when it goes wrong for Russ, you're dead in the water. When it goes wrong for Kyrie, it doesn't. You're creating so much leverage over the field. That doesn't invalidate Russ. But if he's 61% owned, I'd like to have more of 3% owned Kyrie.
Yeah, there's a couple things here. I agree and I disagree, right? I'll say this much. I think the past 3 games that Russ has been on the schedule, he's gone 60 plus. I think he had an 80 and a 70 in there. I think only one of those days he was in the winning lineup. Now, here's another way to consider this. Russell Westbrook at 11,000 on DraftKings is still underpriced. And that's, I think, what we have to consider here, right? When you are going for, I compared it to when FanDuel had players capped at 9,900 and LeBron was stuck at 9,900 and everyone just played him every day because the floor, mind you, this was like 7-8 years ago now. The floor was so high. And I think that's what people kind of cherish when it comes to Westbrook is I'm paying $11K for a guy that on the worst possible day, outside of that one game against Cleveland, like on the worst possible day, I'm getting around 60 from him. You know, I think that's pretty significant. But what you're saying on the other hand is on those days that Russell Westbrook gives you 55 or 60, there is an opening, right? There is a window to where not having Russell Westbrook can win you tournaments, especially where at 11K, this guy is going to be 60% owned on moderately sized slates.
Right. Well, you have to remember what kind of contest you're in. To me, 60% ownership on Russ is the moment where you start looking at the guys around him. Like, no matter which one you want to, 61%
on a field of what, like 28,000?
342. Like,
so close enough.
Luka at 25, Curry at 20, Domantas Sabonis at 6, Vooch at 1.3, but his price is just wrong. But Kyrie at 3.3, even Paul George at 9,500 at 0.8% ownership. Like, it's not that Russ isn't a good play. You should still have a ton of him in contests. But when that disparity gets so big, we're talking about doing things that that increase your odds of finishing first. It doesn't matter if this is going to put you over the cut line. If you're worried about getting into the cut line of that contest, you're playing the wrong contest. The cut line in a GPP is useless information when they pay out $100,000 at the top and $100 to 20th or whatever it ends up being. When that ownership number gets so high on someone with such a big salary, you have to start looking at different situations to move him out to a like-priced but slightly lower upside play.
Sure.
I think 61 is creeping up a bit too high on a slate of yesterday's size.
He should be priced well above 11K. We wouldn't even be having this conversation.
Absolutely. It's really weird that they added it in. I don't know what the benefit is here.
Added.
I would say, I don't know why they've added in a salary cap that has never existed before.
They have. Right. I mean, I don't know any other way to explain it. He's been between 11 and 11-1 for like 10 straight games, I think. So,
it's craziness. It's craziness. It's a really interesting time now because he's clearly the best play at that price tag, but it's opening up value elsewhere to try and win GPPs. Like if you're in a 100-man single entry contest for $100 or something like that, he's a very different play there than he is in a 22,000 person field.
Very much so. Yeah. Look, I don't think there's any two ways around it right now. Russ is too cheap, but 60% ownership when you're getting up in fields of 23,000 at least provide you with an opportunity to look elsewhere. And if your argument is no, it doesn't. Well, look at yesterday's win. Look at the win before that. I get it. It's to an extent anecdotal in the sense that we've only had one or two examples of it, but those the last 2 days, I still played plenty of Westbrook. Okay. That's the thing, but I can understand why not having him in some of these spots can be advantageous. Anyway, we got 10 games to jump into, Josh. So I say we start now. around the 15 after the quarter after the hour mark with the New Orleans Pelicans and the Philadelphia 76ers. So the Pelicans have no Brandon Ingram tonight. Steven Adams, I by the way, I'm fixing this, Tyler. He's doubtful. Nickeil Alexander-Walker is questionable. Steven Adams is doubtful. So we're likely going to be without Ingram, without Adams. I mentioned to you the other day, I think Philadelphia can win out on this on the season right now. I think they got it locked up in the East unless they just completely collapse, which is unlikely at this point because they're good at beating bad teams, bad at beating good teams. But the
98% for the 1 seed, by the way.
What's that?
They're 98% for the 1 seed.
There's the likelihood that they wouldn't pull this off is 2%.
Huh.
Brandon Ingram, though, being out is pretty significant. Now, this is not a good matchup for the Pelicans, but I can't help but ask you about Zion Williamson just because he's pretty much capable of scoring on anyone. And the one time he's faced the 76ers this season, he went for 37 and 15 in a game where, to be fair, Joel Embiid played 31 minutes and had an awful game shooting himself. So he didn't shoot himself, but he himself shooting was awful. What do you make of Zion Williamson today?
You shouldn't be talking about stuff like that, man. That's bad. You'll get yourself canceled for that.
I've said way worse on stream.
Yeah, I'll say way worse probably today. Zion 9,600 on FanDuel, 9,900 on DraftKings. We only have him projected for 6% ownership on DK. This is like the perfect example of what we were just talking about. I'd like to just have more if someone is going to pull 60 on a day like today,
especially with no Ingram.
Right? Yeah, he's the centerpiece of it all. Now, obviously. So it's interesting. I like it. I like Steven Adams being off. I don't think that in the grand scheme of things affects Zion because it's not like Steven Adams is some like ball dominant center, but he is a paint bound center, and getting someone like Willie Hernangomez out there who's more offensively gifted creates additional space for Zion Williamson. Yep. I have Zion projected very well. I have him showing up in the optimal lineup on FanDuel 22% of the time. That's basically double where we have his current ownership. So I am very much Team Zion today. I like getting to on DK, but at 9,900 with the multi-position eligibility, it's easier to move guys around. So he's harder to get to there on DK. I like getting to Lonzo, 8,200 and 8,100. Not exactly great prices for Lonzo, but at 1% and 4% ownership, those are the types of GPP plays I'd be looking at. When you can get somebody that's like 13% likely to be, let's just say I'm too high and it should be 10. If he's 10% likely to be in the optimal and he's 1% owned, those are fantastic GPP plays and GPP pivots that you can get to. The bigger question is who soaks up the time for Brandon Ingram? Is it Najee Marshall? Does Nickeil Alexander-Walker come back? James Johnson can get that run. Wes Iwundu can get that run. So I'm trying to be at least a little bit realistic on who's going to get that run. I gave Najee Marshall 28 minutes, at which point I think he's in the optimal like 10 to 15% of the time. That works for me. I'll happily get to Marshall, but I think there's some upside in James Johnson or Wes Iwundu, depending on how that starting lineup breaks.
For the 76ers, I guess it's somewhat interesting. Now they're a balanced, it sounds strange right now, but when it comes to these games where they're just big favorites, they've been really balanced because they've been afforded the luxury of being balanced, Josh. It's not, when in these more competitive spots, you're going to see a lot more out of Joel Embiid. Their minutes though have been curtailed significantly. And this was something I talked about at length on the Deeper Dive and Strategy show just the other day. I legitimately had concerns that last time out that once again, you can see these guys limited. There's no reason to push them. Josh already said it, 98% chance of winning the East. Okay. Their schedule is cake over the rest of the season. Brooklyn lost again yesterday. They don't need to force these guys, namely guys like Joel Embiid, right? Where you need him for the playoffs. Yeah. So I'm not playing this game of, does it blow out? Does it not blow out? What I'm saying is, Doc Rivers has no incentive whatsoever to push these guys, and that's why Joel Embiid has played 27 or fewer minutes now in 5 of his last 7 games. And if you include that one overtime game where he played the entire overtime period, he hasn't played more than 30 minutes in 6 of his last 7. So that to me is at least a little bit concerning here. If it stays close, I'm not concerned, but even if it does, I still think you could see these minutes curtailed a little bit, even if it stays competitive.
I'm so nervous here because it's obviously an incredible spot against Willie Hernangomez. Willie Hernangomez, probably the worst defensive center that's going to play today.
And New Orleans top 4 in pace over the last month.
Yeah. And Joel Embiid is only 9,600 on FanDuel. Like at 10-7, I like him, but it's way easier to get away from Joel Embiid at 10-7 when you don't know what his minutes upside.
For sure.
9,600 to roster one center on FanDuel in this kind of matchup, that's different to me. So he's projected for 22% ownership, and I totally agree with it. The problem is I'm pretty nervous about it. I just don't really know how to manage it. Second best play on Philly, though. Ben Simmons, 7,200 on FanDuel. At 7,400 on DraftKings, I like him a little bit less. I'd rather get to Tobias Harris at 7K. But Ben Simmons for 7,200 against the Pels, I'm willing to get there, as is the public, currently projected for 20% ownership. I agree with that as well.
Yeah, I don't.
You wouldn't.
Philly.
1.13 fantasy points per minute over the last 30 days. It's solid, man. That's his normal rates.
I'm already worried about these guys only playing 25 to 28 minutes. So
you and me both.
Yeah. I guess what I could ask you is, when you have 10 games, 9 alternative games on this slate, do we need to run the risk? What's Simmons ownership right now on FanDuel?
21.
21. Okay. So
look, I don't love the idea of holding hands at the field at 21% ownership, but we'll see where it actually ends up.
Yeah, he's like,
I have him ranked as my number 4 point guard.
Anything else for Philly?
No, I mean, you're not trying to roster Danny Green or Seth Curry or any of those guys, even with no Korkmaz.
Yeah, Seth Curry, honestly, on DraftKings is at least mildly appealing to me because he has had a few games recently where he goes off and he's actually shooting really well. He's an oddly unpredictable player, but he's also statistically one of the best 3-point shooters ever. I don't think, Seth Curry's the craziest thing as a last man in option. He's getting very little ownership, probably for good reason, but so much of that is just going to depend on what value looks like today. And my assumption is we have enough value to where we don't need to go to Seth or Danny Green. I think we probably won't. It won't be necessary.
It really is incredible how much people hate Ben Simmons.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's well warranted from a DFS standpoint. Ben Simmons, when people say Simmons is trash, though, and they relate it to him as a player, he is a top 2 defensive player in the league this year. So that's kind of significant. But for DFS, he's been awful, dude. I don't care what anyone says.
You can't be a 1.1 something fantasy point per minute guy, and we're just shouting out that he's awful. That's insane.
For his price.
That's just what his price should be.
Josh, here's why he's awful. Okay. You're right. Is he a +1 per minute guy on the season? Yes. He's awful. And this is seriously, I'm not moving the goalposts here. You got to hear me out. The reason Ben Simmons is awful from a DFS standpoint is because most guys that provide 1.13 DraftKings points per minute, that's like all they can provide, right? Yeah. Ben Simmons is playing at like a level 4 offensively where he could play at a level 10. And you may disagree, but we all know it's true. We've seen him do it. He's
frustrating.
Exactly. But that's why people say he's ass. Because it's like, okay, great, Ben. You gave me 35 and 30 minutes. You could have easily given me 55 against this awful team, but you decided to shoot 3 times in the game. That's what frustrates people, because they just don't want to watch somebody have all of this potential to have a huge game, see all of the openings, and he drives and kicks on every single possession. That's what's so frustrating. I think most of chat would agree with me on that.
Oh, that I agree with. Like, I don't disagree with the fact that I want him to play differently, but the output on the floor has not been like, if Ben Simmons were averaging 0.85 fantasy points per minute, I'd be like, yeah, man, that guy has been garbage. He just hasn't.
No, listen, Simmons is actually a really good real life basketball player too.
Yeah.
When people conflate the two, you can't even have that conversation, but I don't want to pay a 7K price point for him right now. Even in this spot, because I worry about the fact that Doc's going to rest him. And I also worry about the fact that Ben Simmons is just going to coast on offense. And I personally don't mind going elsewhere. Let's talk about Boston and Charlotte, though, so we don't get hung up too much. The Celtics are 4-point favorites, 222.5 total. Jaylen Brown's out. Robert Williams is questionable. I wanted to ask you, though, after playing 27.5 minutes yesterday, in his first game returning after around the 2-week hiatus with COVID. Do you think LaVine sits today?
I doubt it.
Okay.
I mean, it's not like he's injured.
No, he's not injured, but we've seen some weird stuff with that. I've got him in as well, but I wasn't sure necessarily what we'd get. I don't even think it makes that big of a difference.
I hope he plays. I think it makes a huge difference. I want him to play so I don't have to play anyone from Chicago. They look like shit.
Yeah. But my point, though, when I say I don't think it matters all that much is all of their price points have pretty much adjusted for LaVine being out anyway, and they haven't bottomed back out again, right? So
you can only play Vooch on FanDuel. I don't even have to address Chicago. Like
that's what I mean. So
there's literally no one else.
Maybe like Thad Young, who's played well, but even his price has come up. So do you really want to pay for him? I don't.
No. The highest owned player on Chicago that isn't Vooch on FanDuel, where he's only 9K, because he's 10-4 on DK for reasons that I don't understand. Highest owned guy on DraftKings for Chicago is Vooch at 1.2% ownership. There is nothing here. Nothing at all. I want no Chicago.
Okay. Fair enough. What about Boston?
That one's different because obviously the status of Robert Williams is important. I have him in now, just splitting center minutes with Tristan Thompson. 5,400 on FanDuel, 5,900 on DraftKings. I think 5,400 on FanDuel is okay. I don't really have much interest on DraftKings because I don't think there's a ton of minutes upside. Tatum is already sort of overpriced, or at least if you want to say maybe properly priced, but I think more overpriced than anything else. So he's like a 5 to 10%er. Marcus Smart is getting 17% ownership on FanDuel right now. I don't really see that at 6,200. I think we're going to have much better ways to spend our salary today. It is a great matchup against Chicago because the defense is bad, but I'm not a huge fan of getting too much from Boston. If you get to Tatum, Smart, Kemba, I think those guys are okay, like last guys in because of the matchup against Chicago, but there are no priorities in this game.
Fournier was a little bit more aggressive last game. I think it was encouraging to see his usage come up a little bit. Where would you put him in terms of priority? Low, mid, high?
None. Zero
on Fournier.
Zero priority.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense. I forgot about the fourth option. Let's move on.
I have no interest whatsoever. He's 5,400. Like, I have him with a 1.7% chance of going for 39. So I don't need him today.
Yeah, that's not great. If Robert Williams is out, does that do anything for what seems like an overpriced Tristan Thompson?
Probably not. They just throw more minutes to they just split Robert Williams minutes between Jabari Parker and Luke Cornett. I don't think Thompson ends up playing like 32 or something like that. So I don't think that would matter at all.
All right. So 11. Sorry, I was reading the text message from my wife. Started reading it out loud.
He giving you the Cardano price right now?
Yeah, dude. ADA is gonna just be. We're gonna be in good shape, man. Just hang tight.
$1.70 right now.
I know, man. We're moving.
Did you see my desk rise up when I said that? I pushed it up. My crotch.
I saw a button fly across the screen. As a matter of fact,
I almost hit the mute button on the top of my mic, my mic there, man. But I got a little too high.
Yeah. I absolutely. I go, ping. Orlando at Charlotte. We've got the Magic 7.5 point favor dogs. 216 total. No. Do I have to do this again? No Terrence Ross, no Wendell Carter Jr., no Okeke, no James Ennis, no Michael Carter Williams. The list just keeps going. And Mo Bamba, man, I said, you know what? I'm going to eat the Mo Bamba chalk over Robert Williams, some Marvin Bagley, but Marvin Bagley's only power forward. So it's mostly like Mo Bamba and Robert Williams. I had that really tough decision to make in a lot of these 3 max and single entry lineups the other day. Thank God I went with Bamba. But after that first half, I thought, all right, well, this was an awful decision. He exploded in the second half. This dude is a per minute guy. He's very good, Josh. And 6,100 against Charlotte. I don't know how outrageous that is. You can tell me how much he pops up in your simulation in the optimal lineup. But he played 29 and then 31 minutes last time out. Shot still only 1 for 7 from 3 and still had 54 DraftKings points.
I like him a lot. 6,900 on FanDuel is fine. I think he's going a bit over-owned on FanDuel, just given that price tag. I have him in for 29 minutes. We've got him projected for 19% ownership. So I see him more as a little bit of a fade on FanDuel. On DraftKings, I mean, I guess technically I see him as a bit of a fade, but he's also a fantastic play. We have him projected for 42% ownership.
Wow, I didn't even look at ownership before talking about Mo Bamba. That's a lot, but God, I'm a sucker for, you know this. You're the same way. Everyone should be. I'm a sucker for centers, even when they're chalky, because they just have so many outs as far as producing fantasy numbers. And I'm not talking about these stretch fives that hang out at the perimeter. I'm talking about like legitimate guys that can be around the basket, that can block shots, that can gather rebounds, that can get putbacks. Bamba's been that guy.
Yeah, oh God. All right. So I have him very highly ranked today. I think that he looks fantastic. He was my number 2 contender on DraftKings. However, there is no way I want to play 42% Mo Bamba if he's already 42% owned. That's too high here. This doesn't have to go well for Mo Bamba. This team sucks. Like, I think he's very clearly a fantastic play. If you're playing cash games, you're probably getting to Bamba, at least as of right now. Buyer beware at 42% ownership on DraftKings, though.
Yeah, I hear you.
That's just a lot.
It is a lot. Like, he's an objectively good play, but the ownership is insane there for sure. Yeah. So here's what we'll do. This is why this show's fun. We'll work through it and figure out, are there good pivots to Mo Bamba? Is he worth the 41%? I missed a super chat from Alan Alexander as well. He said $50 in the 200 on DK, 100 in the 600 on FanDuel. My first NBA DFS season. Thank you all. Maybe next year I can play the $4 plus tournaments. Dude, man, if you're playing 100, he's probably talking about like max in the 20 and stuff like that. But thanks, man. Appreciate that very much so. And I'm glad that we could help along the way. Makes us feel good.
Here's one for you. 42% owned Mo Bamba at 6,100 on DraftKings, or 6% owned Rashawn Holmes at 6,600. He's just not going to beat him 7 out of 8 times or whatever that ratio is right now. Like, I only have him separated by 4 fantasy points.
You're basically
that's a perfect easy pivot if like you build out a cash lineup and you want to swap one guy.
You're basically getting the same minutes.
Yeah,
for sure. Do you
I think Bamba's the better play 100%.
Yeah,
but if you're talking about a large field GPP, you build out a cash lineup. Mo Bamba's in it. You turn Mo Bamba into Rashawn Holmes. You have a very different lineup construction.
I agree. That's a good example of a pivot there. Anything else from Orlando, from the RJ Hamptons to pretty much anyone else, like Mo Wagner playing 26 minutes last game?
Who plays? Like, Cole Anthony played 22 minutes again because he didn't play the 4th because the game wasn't close.
Didn't we have this exact same conversation on Wednesday?
We did. And I still don't know the damn answer to what we need to do here, because he started. They brought Jason Randall in for a little bit. Then Cole Anthony closed the first quarter. He closed the second and then started the third, had all normal rotations there. He just didn't play in the 4th quarter because they were getting their ass kicked. Now, it's Orlando. I expect them to regularly get their ass kicked. But if this game is close, I think Cole Anthony closes, at which point you want Cole Anthony at 29, 30 minutes, whatever. So I still like him. I don't really like the RJ Hampton 22% ownership. I definitely don't like it when Cole Anthony is at 1%. But the fact is, Cole Anthony's 6,800 on DraftKings, so you can't play him there anyway.
Right.
He's 5,800 on FanDuel, much better.
That's the thing. You'd love to say on DraftKings, let me get that pivot over to Cole Anthony off of RJ Hampton. It feels great. But the prices just really prohibit you from being able to do that whatsoever. And I don't want to run the risk that Cole Anthony gets 21 to 28 minutes again. I'm paying almost $7,000 for him on a 7 or 10 game slate. Like, if he was closer to Cole Anthony in price, or I'm sorry, to RJ Hampton, you and I would be talking about getting as much Cole Anthony as possible, I assume.
Absolutely. Without question. We also have to talk about one more guy.
Shoot.
Yeah, that could actually be the dude's name at this point. So Ignas Brazdeikis played 31 and a half minutes his first game, 30 and a half his second game. I have him in for 30 minutes again here. He is the flat minimum on DraftKings still for some strange reason, just $3,000. We have him projected for 9% ownership. There are way worse plays on today's slate than going, 2x the field on Brazdeikis if he can play 30 minutes. He's not good. He's like a 0.75 guy on a team full of garbage, but his minutes seem to be pretty firm. There's not really a lot of competition at his spot. that can soak up more time than him. So if he's going to get 30 minutes again at the literal flat minimum, that's a decent value. It fails a lot.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Adam having the gall to compare me to a dude that looks like a largemouth bass was just highly insulting, but here we are.
Wait, does this look like you?
No, I mean, it's absurd. It's preposterous. It truly is. It's absurd. To use Joe Rogan's term, or it's preposterous. It just doesn't. Like there's really no comparison. There's no equivalent there. It doesn't.
So the first picture that you get to, like the ESPN picture, that looks bad. I don't agree.
The one
if you look at him, yeah. Well, yeah. If you look at him in his Michigan uniform, I think it's a lot closer.
Well, it's funny because I saw that and he actually looks like a pretty normal guy in that one. But the first picture that shows up, the initial thought is, yeah, Adam, fuck you, buddy. You know? Yeah.
It's not great. He's got that pedo look going too.
Yeah, no, it's not good. Villa says he looks like a mobster. In a way, and he kind of does an Eastern European mobster. I can see it a little bit. All right, what are we doing with Charlotte now that Bridges is still out for a while? I always mention Hayward just because he was such an integral piece of this team. So when you take Bridges and Hayward off, it's significant. Graham and Cody Martin are both questionable. What are you doing with Charlotte today against a brutal Orlando team?
Well, let's just get this one out of the way really quickly. Terry Rozier is the best play on FanDuel. Once again, 6,200. The price didn't move. He's projected for 54% ownership, and that is spot on. I don't have anything to add or say here. He's the best play on FanDuel, and it's not close. After that, I think everybody on DraftKings looks super the same. So we've got Rozier, Ball, Jalen McDaniels, and Monk all projected at either 8 or 9% ownership. That's exactly where I have them. So mix and match your Charlotte Hornets if you would like. On the FanDuel side, I'd like to be a little bit more aggressive on LaMelo Ball at 7,500. I think that price is really nice, although I'm not really sure what they're doing with his minutes. He's projected for 24% ownership. That's a hair higher than I would like, but I still see LaMelo as like a 20% owned guy at 7,500. I like getting there, but Rozier on FanDuel is the clear price.
All right. Malik Monk yesterday played 31 minutes, had 37 DraftKings points. Adam and I both said before the deeper dive in on it, this could be one of those games where after playing only 19 minutes, Malik Monk comes in and lights it up. And that's very much what he did. He had a very solid game. Meanwhile, someone that was actually pulling some ownership, you never know what's going to happen under James Borrego. Brad Wanamaker played 20 minutes. Again, only shot 4 times and was highly underwhelming as anticipated. So keep that stuff in mind. Malik Monk, I don't know what his ownership is today, but I'm assuming 9%. I don't have an issue getting a little bit of Malik Monk against a terrible Orlando team.
So I have him at 9.2% in my sim. He's at 9.2% ownership. But if Wanamaker's 3,300 and unowned, I like him in large field GPPs if he falls into those 30 minutes. Like
I'm fine,
especially against Orlando, where if this game's a blowout, it might just be Brad Wanamaker playing the final 12 minutes of this game in the fourth quarter.
It is the very same argument you and I made in favor of Orlando just the other day, and to some extent today. So now Monk's not going to be chalky, so I do think there's some difference there. But Wanamaker was projected at like 15, 16% yesterday. It's not insane, but to me, it was just not worth getting there, especially given that James Borrego is so unpredictable with his rotations. And even if he did get the minutes, Brad Wanamaker actually has to do something with those minutes, which is oftentimes unlikely.
Yes.
Jaden McDaniels is out for the Minnesota Timberwolves. What's it matter at this point, right? 6-point dogs, 224.5 total. I talked to you about it before the show. I mean, I think Juancho Hernan-Gomez benefits the most from this, but Miami doesn't make for the greatest matchup. You still have Towns and Edwards and Russell on this team. I mean, how much can we really do with this news that McDaniels is sitting?
Very little right now. So the starting lineup will be massive here. I like whoever ends up in the starting lineup in his place, whether that's Jared Vanderbilt, 3,600 on FanDuel, 3,300 on DK, Juancho at 4,300 or 3,500. Hell, it could be Jake Layman. You had no idea who they're going to dust off. I like whoever that ends up being because I think that firms up their minutes and they become an okay value play. But matchups against Miami are notoriously terrible anyway. I do like D'Angelo Russell for 7,300 on DraftKings, though. We have him projected for 5% ownership. He's getting the real minutes now. Like, I don't. Hey, give me a second. I think it might be hailing right now, and it sounds really bad. I got to check on this. Sorry.
Are you serious?
Yes, very.
What? See, the thing about this is, it's hail. What is he going to do? Stop the hail? There's no recourse here. It hails and then it stops hailing, unless the dogs are outside.
No, it is. No, but my car is.
Dude, what are you going to do? You got a garage?
Park it in the garage. Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to get pelted. You're going to get knocked out by golf ball size hail, and you're just going to lay there unconscious as you and your car now get lit up.
It's so loud. I can hear it. Feeling. So it's not the ceiling. I can hear it hitting our skylights in our hallway.
Yeah. I just I'll be right back. Got to stop the hail.
No, dude, it's I've never heard anything like that. It doesn't hail down here all that often.
Yeah, you've gotten hail up when you lived in PA, but it gets pretty bad from time to time.
Yeah, this is like, it's for a second, I thought we were getting like robbed. It's so loud that it sounds like we have actual workers in the hallway outside of my office. I've never heard the noise, but it sounded like Katie put rocks in the washing machine.
No, I know that. I'm familiar with it. It sucks, and you just got to hope that your car doesn't get tuned up. You know?
Yeah, I don't want to go outside and find all the broken glass. Oh
I think
my God, it's all over. You guys
usually these hailstorms, usually they only last a couple seconds anyway.
Yeah, you can. I don't know if you can see all
nice
the whites.
Oh yeah, look at that. Looks like a bunch of quarters out there. Nice front porch, Josh.
Thank you. Sorry, that's just
North Carolina.
That was just. I wasn't ready for what I just heard at all.
Yeah, you were shocked. Who are you saying is legitimately getting minutes and you want to play that? Was it Russ?
Yeah, D'Angelo Russell. Yeah. So he played 37 minutes last time out, 33 the game before that. By all accounts, he is just back to being D'Angelo Russell. I gave him 34 minutes at 5% ownership. He is definitely a guy that I want to get to on DK. I like if this game is competitive, and in theory, it could be mildly competitive. Minnesota is basically at full strength. They've been playing a little bit better as of late. I like getting to Russell.
Okay. I don't mind it either. Anybody else from Minnesota, or should we talk about Miami with Butler questionable, Oladipo out, and Tyler Hero also questionable?
I mean, we kind of just need to wait on that sort of news. Bam looks pretty good at 8,300 on FanDuel, but he's pulling a ton of ownership. We need to wait to find out what's going on with Butler, but clearly 9,400 for Jimmy Butler on FanDuel, where he's picking up 24% ownership in a matchup against Minnesota, a team that I am sure he's ready to roast. Like he hates these guys. So I like it, but 24% seems like a little bit high for Jimmy Butler in this spot, given where they're at. But he had like flu-like symptoms. So I assume that Butler's going to be okay. The real question is Hero, and I don't think that affects anything.
All right. Well, I was waiting for this. Dreading this, as a matter of fact. We get finally to the Houston Rockets and the Milwaukee Bucks. The Rockets are 17-point dogs today, and I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Milwaukee covers with ease. 231.5. You honestly can't even be afraid of these big spreads if you're a bettor at this point. Like you can't. No. You know, earlier in the year, you see 10, 11, 12, you back off, at least in many times I did, but I'm seeing 13.5. I mean, I hit the Sixers at 13.5 the other day. It moved to 14.5. I still got a good bet down and beat the closing line. They won by like 20. The Warriors covered 14 yesterday. This is happening very often. These teams are really bad. Houston has all but 4 players on the injury report today, Josh. Christian Wood is questionable. Kevin Porter is out. Kelly Olynyk is questionable. Jayson Tatum is questionable. Daniel House is doubtful. And then Eric Gordon's still out. Sterling Brown is out. Bradley's out. Wilson's out. Augustine's questionable. It's insane what we're looking at here for the Rockets tonight.
We can only say so much right now because we clearly have no idea what's going to happen. They are conceivably going to have, at this point, they can have at most 9 active players. That is if DJ Augustine is ruled active. Everybody that's questionable is ruled active. and Kyrie Thomas is ruled able to play for Houston, who they just signed on a 10-day. I think the more likely scenario is that they have 8 active bodies. I would imagine that if DJ Augustine wasn't able to play and they only had 7 guys last time, he's not suddenly falling into 20-something minutes.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Are we good?
We're
good? I've never not heard you. Everything has stayed the same.
Okay. Your camera's a little bit jacked up, but we can hear you. I mean, we can still hear you. So that's good.
Obviously there's a storm.
Yes, I caught that part. So do we honestly just wait on news for Houston right now?
Well, I think there are some guys that we can project no matter what.
Okay.
In a way. Like, we have Kelly Olynyk. Like, this is just impossible. I don't care what his price is. We have Kelly Olynyk projected for 1% ownership on FanDuel at 8K. I just want to have more. Like, if he's out there, he might have to just play 36 minutes because they literally don't have any choice. Christian Wood scares me just because of his price and the fact that I think they do pull him. He doesn't just play blowout run in this scenario. I think Kenyon Martin Jr. At 4,700 on FanDuel is a great play regardless.
Okay.
I think Daquan Jeffries for 3,300 on FanDuel on DraftKings is a good value play. Everybody that steps on the floor for Houston today is probably worth rostering in some way.
Man,
that's terrifying.
Like, if Augustine sits, and he was questionable last game, but he didn't even get on the floor anyway, right?
He was active.
That's what I meant. He was questionable to active, didn't play.
I don't think he can play today.
I don't think he does either. So that just takes one other player off the floor. The minutes are going to be absurd. What do we get? We got 7 last game, right? Yeah, we got 7. And Brooks played 31 off the bench. Anthony Lamb played 36 off the bench.
And one of those guys was Kevin Porter playing 23, who was not active any longer.
Right. But I'm assuming that Jayson Tatum returns. I don't know. I think he returns today. And then
he might have to.
Right, exactly. And Christian Wood was out as well. But you get a couple back and you lose a couple, right? Because Avery Bradley's out and he played. And Kevin Porter's out and he played. So you might get 2 back, but you're losing 2 again, which means you probably get 7 and you just play them. A lot of them.
Yeah. Like, everybody's going to be like 15 to 20% to be in the optimal. They're all going to look like relatively decent, and you're not going to be comfortable grabbing any one of them. Someone's going to fall into stats by default. They just have to.
I got to tell you, though, at 7,500, I was shocked that Kelly Olynyk was only like 8% the other day.
Yeah, I'm even more shocked that it's 1 on FanDuel.
Yeah, I know he's 8K, but this guy is just like, he's going to have to do everything, and he's really not afraid to do so right now. He's also rebounding at a really appealing clip for a guy like Kelly Olynyk. He's going to play probably 40 minutes. He played 39 minutes and they got smoked. They lost by 20 last game. I think
he's the second best center option on the day, and he's getting 1% ownership.
Great. What's he out on FanDuel? Price?
8K.
Okay. Oh, he's 8K on DraftKings too. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah.
There's no reason that Kelly Olynyk can't go for 50 fantasy points today with no other bodies on the floor.
Yeah, there's no reason he can't go for 60 like he did last game in a blowout against Philly, by the way. It's not like that was an easy matchup.
Yeah.
Philly's going to let these like a Kelly Olynyk type score today. They don't really care. No one else is going to score. It doesn't matter. Milwaukee, they score enough to beat them. You know what I mean? Milwaukee will likely do the same thing. Who cares? They allow a ton of 3-point shots as well. Do you like anything from the Bucks? In all seriousness, like, this is one of those games where I have real concerns.
Do they play?
Right.
Adam made the tweet basically when the show started. Like, we're going to find out that Milwaukee is sitting Giannis, Drew Holiday, Dante DiVincenzo, Chris Middleton, and Brook Lopez at 6:55 today.
They should.
I don't see how you could roster people for Milwaukee today. Like, this is different. I can't pay. Giannis Antetokounmpo isn't playing 35 minutes today.
No.
It would have to go to 10 overtimes.
There's no way. There's no way. Even 10 overtimes would be a stretch.
We have him projected for 30% ownership on both sites. If that's the case, I can't get there. I'd rather not have him. If Giannis goes for 75 in 25 minutes, like he certainly could against Houston, kudos. I don't see how you get to anything from Milwaukee. It's too bad. And they're too good of a team. Like they're a team, like all the pieces work together. It's not like some individual guy just like legitimately takes over. I don't know how you get there.
If they rest guys, this game is going to be insane.
Oh God,
insanely popular. Like
Pat Connaughton, Bryn Forbes, Bobby Portis. I mean, you're Jeff T. You're jamming these dudes in aggressively.
Yep. Now I think that they play them, and I just assume that they're all going to sit like most of the second half because they're a half game behind the Nets for second in the East right now. Yeah. Maybe that doesn't matter, but it would be nice to finish second instead of third. That could be the difference between playing the Heat or the Celtics. Now, the Heat beat them last time, but this is not a very good Heat team right now. So maybe they don't care, Josh. Maybe they want to face the Heat. I don't know.
Right now, the most likely 6th seed is actually the Boston Celtics.
That's what 44. I said. Yeah, but that's what I said. But if right, I'm sorry. That's what I mean. If they finish second, they get Miami. If they
finish 7th, they get whoever wins the matchup between Miami and Charlotte.
Oh, right.
Don't forget the play-in. So you don't know who you're playing if you finish second. If you finish third, right now the more likely scenario is the Celtics. But the Celtics and the Heat are tied. Celtics could very easily fall into that 7th spot, and then they're the ones playing the Hornets.
I would like to avoid facing a healthy Celtics team when I have the potential or the possibility of facing the Hornets or the Pacers or the Wizards.
I mean, you would much rather play the Miami Heat if you're the Bucks,
or any of those,
especially for last year, and get like at least a modicum of revenge.
Right. Yeah, this is not the same Miami team that went on that torrid pace throughout the bubble at all. I'm with you on Milwaukee, though. Let's talk Cleveland and Dallas before we do, and then we will rip through the rest of this one and get you guys out of here in a comfortable fashion. Let's hit on the Hall of Fame because, well, you know what? We like to brag for the people that are rocking the Awesemo avatars across the DFS space. We just keep getting more winners, just keep getting more tweets coming in, and it feels good. So we're going to do it. And if you want to be up here, you want to win a free month of Awesemo Plus, everything included on the site. I mean, everything. Go to awesemo.com/avatar, download the avatar, use it on DraftKings Fanduel, No House Advantage, wherever that may be. And if you finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, we'll throw you up here and you'll get a free month of Awesemo Plus. Some big wins coming in. Tyler just flipped through them in like 2 seconds each, so I can't even read any of them. But anyway, we got a lot of good ones here. Here's another one. 3 wins, turning $8 into $900 yesterday with the Awesemo avatar. Josh, that's good ROI, one might say.
It's pretty solid. I would like that kind of ROI in like everything that I do.
Yeah. There you go. Another one, the piggy bank. Dude, I swear Awesemo owns the piggy bank shot.
I wonder if FanDuel will ever just call it ours.
They might. First place again with an Awesemo logo every single day. ASON 89, $100. Oh, look at that. Third place in the piggy bank. That's like a 5-cent entry. Yes, you can win at Awesemo Plus $99.95 value simply by coming in first through third, even in the piggy bank, because it's such a huge field. Hustle for it, 10K. Big one there. Look at that. Ben Simmons in the winning lineup. That's nice. Third out of 80,000 people. And then here we go. Took down 1 and 2 spot in the No House Advantage 5K tourney. That is awesome with the Awesemo logo. First and second, 6K. I told you there's money to be made on No House Advantage right now. Like I tell you, I'm not saying you're going to bank first and take second as well, but it's definitely doable. I'm sure those tools were used at Awesemo as well. The prop tool for NBA with the win, expected ROI has made me money every single week to use that for NFL props. And Alex says, yep, we're going to have MLB soon as well. I don't know how that popped up, but I'm happy to talk about our prop tool because it's totally free on the site. That's the Awesemo Hall of Fame segment. Again, download the avatar and tweet at Awesemo Hall of Fame if you finish top 3 out of 5,000, or just tweet if you have a good win that you're proud of and you're rocking that Awesemo avatar, or if you're not, I don't care. We'll check it out. We'll show you some love regardless. All right, man, let's power through this. Cleveland and Dallas. Darius Garland is out. And that's about it for Cleveland. They're 10-point dogs, 219.5 total.
There's no priorities here. This isn't a very good DFS game. The 10-point dogs isn't helping. Chetty is the only guy in double digits in ownership on either site. I agree with it. I think he should be about 10% owned. Highest owned guy on DraftKings is Chetty at 4.8. I would happily get a little bit more than that. Maybe you want to get to Dean Wade as a pay down option, but Cleveland looks just absolutely terrible as a DFS option today. So you can mostly skip the Cavs.
All right. That makes life easy. What about Dallas with Porzingis doubtful? I mean, the likelihood that he plays is very low. Maxi Kleber out today. It's funny. Adam and I were going back and forth during the game because we both had talked about, hey, minimum salary Willie Cauley-Stein looks nice, doesn't it? He gets off to an insane start. He's got like 6-2, 4, 2, and 2 in the first 6 minutes. And then it's Dwight Powell coming in with higher ownership off the bench that lights the damn slate up after it looked, man, sometimes slates happen like that, Josh, where you look so good early on. And then everyone you needed to fade comes through, and everyone that you had looking great in the first quarter just completely disappears off the face of the earth. But Cauley-Stein at minimum salary, 25 fantasy points wasn't bad. It's just Dwight Powell was 3,500 and had 38.
Yeah, I was talking about him post-lock too, and I was just like, it could just as easily be a Willie Cauley-Stein game, and then it just was for a brief moment, and then Powell came in and saved the day. Look, this is Luka and only Luka as far as I'm concerned. 10-9 on both sites. I'm happy to get him in about 20% of my lineups. If you get like 5% of Tim Hardaway, I think it's okay. I don't think that it's really all that interesting to get to Dwight Powell and FanDuel at $5K. What a stupid price tag that is. But $3,700 Powell, that's fine. One of Powell or Willie Cauley-Stein is a decent GPP play. You don't really know who's going to get those minutes, but one of them's going to get them, and they're both productive when they're out there. All
right. Yeah, people are sleeping on Luka lately just because there's Westbrook and there's Curry. They've been insane. But Luka over his last 11 is still a 1.6 DraftKings point per minute guy. So it's not like he hasn't been good. Denver and Utah. Let's break this one down, Josh. The Nuggets, par for the course when it comes to injuries. I'm not listing anything here because we know exactly who's been out and will stay out. 4-point dogs, 216.5 total. Break down both sides of this one. I'm assuming you don't have a ton for Denver outside of the routine. Nikola Jokic is always in play.
Yeah, and I'm actually not all that fond of Jokic on FanDuel where he's 11-2. Like, this is just one of those spots where give me a shot at 8K Kelly Olynyk potentially playing 40 minutes tonight just because. So I think Jokic is okay on FanDuel. I like him a little bit more on DraftKings. It's like a 15%er to me. The guy that I'm liking a little bit more that isn't getting as much love, 6K on FanDuel, 5,100 on DraftKings. I have at least a little bit of interest in Facundo Campazzo. That's not the same backcourt for Utah. He's probably a little overpriced on DK, but for 5,100, 5% owned, Facundo Campazzo is going to be playing a ton for Denver. He played 36 minutes 2 games ago, got 33 in the last one. I have him getting that full freight if this game's competitive. So I don't mind getting to Campazzo as a GPP play. And then Michael Porter Jr. is actually the best play on FanDuel for Denver, projected for 20% ownership. I got him at 18, so I'm right there with it. 7,300, having a roster 2 at each position is important. He's 8,600 on DraftKings, a little bit out of my price range.
Campazzo is second on the team in touches since Jamal Murray went down. Jokic averaging 100 touches per game, but Campazzo was 70. So this is not just a guy that's just floating around the perimeter and taking up space in Jamal Murray's absence. He's actually been very involved, and I'm with you there. I'd love to pay that mid 4K price point for him, but 5K is not a terrible price point against Utah. Now, are you on anything from Utah with Mitchell and Conley still sidelined?
A little bit of Joe Ingles on FanDuel at 6,300 is okay for me. There are no priorities for Utah on DraftKings. Finally, Clarkson's price is at 7,200 and 7,500, so you can mostly ignore him. I don't know why Bojan Bogdanovic is projected for 25% ownership on FanDuel, but he is. I would fade that number. To me, that's just a little bit higher than I'm looking for. I would say I would rather have him in like the 10% range.
Lakers and Portland. Now, LeBron James, who sat yesterday, will also be seated today, right? Or I'm assuming, right? Yeah, we're out. We got James out for this one. Yeah. Yep. Dennis Schroeder also in the COVID protocol, and Anthony Davis is also expected to play today. He was out yesterday. He was out yesterday in a game where they just got trashed. Anyway, is there any way we can get to Davis right now against this Portland team?
He played 9 minutes yesterday, left with what was an ankle injury, and then got called back spasms. I like him less than I have. I don't have a lot of trust here, but I will continue to at least want some of him on FanDuel because of rostering 2 guys at each position if he continues to be 4% owned. But I see him as like a 10%er. Kyle Kuzma for 5,500 and 5,600 to me is the best play on both sites. Although we've got the boss man projected for 26% ownership on DraftKings at 4K. I like Caruso a lot. I gave him 28 minutes today. That feels like a little bit too much. He's a 0.8 fantasy point per minute guy. He's not really like a productive fantasy player. So while I do think Caruso is the best value option from the Lakers, I think he's going a bit over-owned.
Anything else here from the Lakers, just given the absences to 2 key players, or is that all we're dealing with?
No, they're a really bad fantasy team. So if you want to transition me over to Portland, well, I take the zinc.
Oh, 11 o'clock. Well, 11:01, you're a minute late. The Portland Trailblazers, they're healthy. Norman Powell's probable. That's really the only thing we've got here. I think you and I have discussed this quite often this year, that despite the Lakers being a bad fantasy team, they're not just bad offensively. They're bad for opposing offenses as well.
Yeah. Like on Portland, the highest owned guy on DK is 7.5% on Lillard. I have Dame, CJ, Nurk, and Covington all about 6%, 7% to be in the optimal. So no priorities whatsoever from Portland. I do like CJ quite a bit on FanDuel at 7,600. Shooting guard position's tough to fill. He's projected for 17% ownership. I agree with it. 12% ownership projected on Dame at 9,200 now. So feeling vindicated, at least for this one. That ownership is correct, but terrible spot against the Lakers. Here's the deal for this game, though. It is very, very important for the playoffs. This has a tiebreaker written all over it. This will set the tiebreaker for these teams. Lakers and Blazers right now are tied for that 6 and 7 spot. So the winner of this game is much more likely, almost guaranteed in a way, to not be in the play-in. If the Lakers lose here, there's a very likely scenario that they are playing the Warriors in the first 7-8 play-in game. Buckle up for that one.
I would love that.
I would. Okay, so like, I understand why people, we don't have time for this. I understand why you would say that, and I understand why people would say that. I don't care about it at all.
Okay.
I hate it. I hate the play-in tournament. I hate this stupid stuff where we reward shittier teams with extra spots and more spotlight. I don't need to see the 9th and 10th best team in the West do anything additionally. They suck. The Warriors are terrible. The Lakers have been terrible, but are the defending champs. That's different. So I don't care about any of this.
You're saying you just want to expedite the process entirely and not prolong it.
Right. Like, are you really getting buckled up for the 9-10 matchup in the East between the Pacers and the Wizards? That is garbage basketball. It shouldn't exist.
In a way, I kind of disagree, because I think some of these games, while ultimately proving meaningless, will actually be pretty fun. And a Lakers Warriors play-in would be fantastic.
Oh, the entertainment value of that
is
super high.
About. Yeah, that's
that I 100% agree with.
Yeah,
but
that's
you get the exact opposite on the East side. Like, you play 72 game seasons, so the 9th and 10th best team in a conference get to continue to try. Who cares about that stuff?
Right. I don't. But I do think like Blazers Grizzlies is fun, or, let's just say the Pelicans make a run and it was like Warriors Pels. Yeah. I would enjoy watching those games, even though I know that it means nothing. Right. That's what I'm saying.
I like the entertainment. I hate it as like a basketball purist.
Agreed. We're actually on the same page here. Do you have anything else from the Blazers? I'm assuming no, right? We can keep it going here.
No, that's a terrible DFS game.
San Antonio,
these all are.
Sacramento. Yeah. Hey, all of our shows, podcast form, you guys know that, but if you go to any podcast platform, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, you name it, everything here. If you don't want to watch it on YouTube, or you hate putting your phone in your pocket because you don't have YouTube Premium and you leave it on, the battery dies, phone starts getting hot, and you say, oh shit, I wish I had a podcast to listen to. Well, you do, because everything we got, podcast form. While you're over there, leave a rating and a review. And if you missed the memo at the top of the show saying when you jump into this specific one, to hit that thumbs up, make it a habit. First thing you do every time you enter this show, well, please do so now. That there is still time. You are not too late. Hit that thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We thank you in advance. The YouTube algorithm, man, I'm telling you, That's the only reason we do this. We don't do this because it's fun to ask for likes 100 times a show. We do it because the YouTube algorithm, we are at its mercy, Josh, and it's not fun.
It isn't fun. It isn't fun, but we know how to work it because we can get these people to hit that thumbs up. I'm good at that.
Yes, you are good at that. Everyone has their thing. San Antonio and Sacramento. The Sacramento Kings are 5-point dogs at home, 226 total. Do you have Fox and Barnes out today?
Yes.
Okay. So Halliburton's already out. I'll let you start with San Antonio. Listen, the Kings are the worst defense in the league. They have been all season long. There has not been a time where they haven't been the worst defense in the league.
No. Given the ownership on FanDuel, I really like DeMar DeRozan and DeJounte Murray. These guys are like 17% to be in the optimal. They're owned a bit less than that. I actually like getting to Keldon Johnson as well as a value option. On DK, it's a little bit closer. I think DeMar and DeJounte are properly owned. I think Keldon Johnson's still a little under-owned, but he hasn't been great as of late. 0.76 FanDuel points per minute. Play DeMar and DeJounte. It's a great spot against Sacramento. Sacramento's defense is really, really bad.
Okay. Sacramento Kings, if we're assuming they're without three of them, and the line suggests they will be. They're 5-point dogs at home, right? Yeah. If that's the case, and DeLon Wright is 6,800 now, but he's just been so damn good, man. Like this guy has 15 stocks over his last 2 games.
Look, you're playing him again. 30% optimal on FanDuel. That's where his ownership is. I have him as one of my top 2 plays on DraftKings right now. But you got to go back to Bagley as well. 5,900 on DK, projected for 27% ownership. Wright and Bagley on DraftKings are 2 core pieces, 2 almost immediate cash game options. Just very, very high-end plays. I think you could still get to Buddy Hield even at that price tag, just given the volume. And then I like Rashawn Holmes at 6% ownership. I think that he should be owned twice as much as that. And I think that he works as a really nice pivot in larger field GPPs.
Top options from Sacramento.
DeLon Wright and Marvin Bagley.
Okay. And who did you say is good for tournaments?
Rashawn Holmes, 6,600 on DK.
I missed that. I was reading chat, but I wanted to make sure for anyone that tuned in late that isn't watching the replay that you talked earlier about Rashawn Holmes possibly being a smart pivot off of someone like Mo Bamba if there's really like a 40% difference in ownership on DraftKings, which is absurd right now.
Yeah. We'll see where that ends up as we get closer to lock. Watch live before lock in the deeper dive, everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. The tip-off show as well. And just keep playing Sacramento if all 3 of these guys are out. I know their prices are coming up a little bit, but Marvin Bagley's still sub 6K on DraftKings.
Playing 30-plus minutes. That's bonkers.
It's crazy, man. I don't understand it. Like, yeah, sure, he hasn't been as good as DeLon Wright, but both of those guys make a lot of sense. And Holmes' price is coming down. So I still like Sacramento a lot today in a game that has a respectable total. Now, the next game, on the other hand, Josh, New York getting 7 points in Phoenix, 217 total. Alec Burks, Emmanuel Quickly are both doubtful for this one. On the other side, Cameron Johnson's questionable. Jay Crowder's out. So no, like, really huge news. Low total game shouldn't be really an up-tempo spot whatsoever. Maybe it stays close. I couldn't tell you. Do you get to anything for the Knicks today?
You can play Julius Randle and RJ Barrett. I wouldn't play anybody else. Derrick Rose at 6K to me is a little bit too overpriced. Elfrid Payton at 3,300 is a little interesting because Quickly is out. I just don't think that he gets enough minutes. I have him in for 20. If he gets more than that, he could become a viable value play. We have him projected for 13% ownership. I don't like it until we hear a little bit more, but I just assume that he continues to be the backup and they give additional run to like Ntilikina or something along those lines. So it's Randle and it's Barrett, but matchups against Phoenix aren't ever fun. This matchup is ultra slow, leans more defensive than offensive for sure. So I don't really want anything from the Knicks.
What if Peyton starts again like he did last game?
Then I have a little bit more interest,
Right.
That
he had a Myers Leonard rotation where he played only the first and third quarter and nothing else. But
it's possible that he could see a little bit more now if Quickly's not playing.
Exactly. That would absolutely feel like it's the case, given that Quickly was in there for the minutes that he wasn't. And if it wasn't him, it was Derrick Rose. So
I just don't want to go we're not going to have that information. And I don't want to wait all the way to 10 o'clock with 13% Elfrid Payton in my lineups, finding out that he plays 18 minutes anyway. Like, you need every one of those minutes too.
Yeah, I don't blame you at all.
And it's not like they're playing like Washington or Indiana or something where like there's upside in the game itself.
And Derrick Rose isn't really a good enough value right now to feel awesome about that either. So
no.
Let's wrap it up. Phoenix Suns. I'll say this much though. If you like free premium content, we rotate it every day of the week, making sure that we can get you guys who haven't signed up yet but are maybe interested into checking it out. The NBA ownership rankings, the MLB player rankings, NHL player projections, and the MMA fighter projections for tomorrow's card are all free at awesemo.com today. And if you're someone that really wants to check out what we have to offer, you see, you know what? I see people winning all the time with the Awesemo avatar. The Awesemo Alex Baker himself is the number 1 ranked DFS player. Steve Buzzard, the Colts, is always winning as well. We got all these guys making big moves. How do I join? I'd love to be a part of this. Well, we got you. You could do it for less than $4 a week. You could do it for a month, a year, whatever you want. One sport, all sports. There's a million different ways to sign up, become part of the community. And when you do, jump in Slack chat. Make sure you join the office hours as well, where you got our pros answering questions all day long to help you improve your game. Go to awesemo.com/join. Ownership projections, player projections, the top stack tool for all sports. This isn't just basketball. The boom or bust tool, lineup builder, fantasy cruncher add-on. The list goes on and on and on. All the premium articles you could think of as well. Awesemo.com/join. My DMs are open too. If you have any questions, I'm happy to help you out with subscription questions specifically. All right, Josh.
By the way, my DMs are closed, so I'm not.
Right. Yeah, I would never at all suggest that you DM Josh or even try, because he will.
Slack, yes. Once you're in the door,
yeah,
I'm here for you.
We'll see, but I'm trying to help people get in the door. Some people don't understand certain ways that the subscriptions work, and they might ask, does this come with this, or what about this? And does we have the top racer tool for NASCAR? Oh, well, yeah. Matter of fact, we do. You don't have a top fighter tool, do you? Just top stacks? Oh no, actually, we do. What about a top golfer tool? Yeah, we got that as well. So we got like every sport. We have all of the tools you could think of, and you don't even need to know the sports, which is kind of cool.
Obviously, people are going to be coming at me with open DMs a little bit different than they'll be coming at you.
Yeah. Talk to me about Phoenix. Wrap this one up. Put a bow on it, Josh.
Highest odds of being in the optimal of anybody on FanDuel or DraftKings is Mikal Bridges at 8.9%. We got Torrey Craig picking up a little bit of love as a value play. I am not trying to prioritize anybody from Phoenix against a top 5 defense and one of the 2 slowest teams in the league. So very, very minimal here. If you get any starters from Phoenix, knock yourself out. Ayton, Bridges, Booker, Paul. Cool. That's totally fine. But they are last men in at best. There are no priorities here.
All right. Hey, not bad for 10 games.
Oh, I mean, 3 or 4 of them you can't even talk about.
I'd say we did quite well. Thanks to Tyler Zander producing the show. I see he's got producer Ty as the name in chat now. I can dig that. Well, appreciate you guys for hanging out. Hit that thumbs up before you go. It's so important. Subscribe to the channel. And if you want to join here, get the badges, get the emojis and all of that fun stuff. It's $2.99. Do it. Don't do it. Doesn't matter to me, but it's fun stuff. And well, if you want to, I'll notice it. We'll welcome you to the family. We'll see you back here later. Like Josh said, the deeper dive, live before lock, tip-off, integral parts of today's shows with all of the news pending for so many teams. We'll catch you back here. This has been the Strategy Show presented by No House Advantage.